All right, welcome to Peaceful Warrior Yoga, a hip hip hooray today class. We're going to work on the hips. So let's start in a butterfly stance. So we're just feeling the opening of the hips here, bottoms of the feet together. We'll use this as our centering seat today. Now hips can be a really tricky area of the body to work with. There's all sorts of injuries and compensations we've made over the years. So if anything is painful, don't stay in it for too long. Come out of it as soon as you feel pain. Work in the pain-free range of motion. So something like this might work better for some people if that foot-to-foot combo doesn't work. Sit towards the edge of your seat. I'm on a bolster with my hips tilted slightly forward, and that gives me a nice opening here without straining the low back. Let the hands come out to the edges of the knees, the thighs, palms face up. And another way to compensate for this is if this is too much of a strain, what I like to do is simply prop up the thighs with blocks to take out the edge in the hip. So we'll be here for a little while, so you don't want it to be so uncomfortable that it's distracting. And as you sit there, start to feel like the leaning tower of Pisa. You're almost toppling forward. So you feel this sense of tilting forward. Not rounding, but the weight tilting forward, like gravity's pulling you this way. And when you've found the right amount of sensation, not too much, let the eyes become soft or closed. And start to enjoy each new breath as if it's a delicious fragrance coming into the nose, the smell of a rose, perhaps the smell of the forest or the ocean. That lovely, savoring, slow inhale, where you can almost taste the fragrance. And as you exhale, relax the torso, allowing the hips to open just a little more. And over the next 5 breaths, bring all your attention into the area between the knees and the low back, the knees and the belly button, the knees and the sides of the ribs, the lower ribs, that skirt area, that hip area. And during today's practice, bring your focus back to the skirt, from the knees to the low back, knees to the belly, knees to the lower ribs. And then gently bring the knees up and extend the legs out. Toes curled back, feeling the back of the legs open up. And we'll just start with some small slides down the shins and back up. Very small. Very small but growing. So each bend forward invites the next bend to go a little further. And if the shoulder's round and the head drops, that's fine, if that feels good on the low back. And the next time you come forward, pause and hold. And feel the back of the skirt from the low back all the way down through the glutes, hamstrings into the back of the knees. Like you're getting all the creases out of the back of the skirt. Walk the hands back, bend the knees and come onto all fours. On all fours, start a small rotation with the hips. Just bringing some movement into the hips. Now, of course, even though we're focused on the hips, you should feel this in the wrists, shoulders, neck, knees. And as you come around to the sides, really push the side hip out, trying to get a bigger circle. And then the other way. And then we're going to come forwards and backwards, almost like back into a child pose, and then into a lazy up dog. Child, lazy up dog. So the pelvis is kind of changing shape as you come back to child, and then it drops down towards the mat as you come forward. You can exaggerate those movements, come into full up dog, if that feels good. And full child pose, if that feels good. And then come back to all fours. Keeping the hands on the ground, step the left foot forward like you're about to stand up. And then step the left foot all the way back, drop the ball of the foot, heel presses back, stretching out the back of the leg. Let's repeat that movement. Foot floats forward to that front hand and steps back and pushes out. So getting a big trajectory into that back leg, back hip, forward and back. And the next time you step forward, walk the hands forward and lean the weight forward so you come into that feeling of dragon pose. You start to feel that right hip opening up even more, that hip flexor. Push up into kneeling warrior and reach up. Turning to the left, bring the left hand out, right hand forward. Come back through kneeling warrior, and we'll turn the other side. Inhale forward, step back to all fours. And this time step the right foot forward and then right foot back, push through the heel. So that same movement we set up on the other side, forward and back, feeling the right hip now. And you might find the tendency is for that front foot to want to come forward more, or leaning the weight forward more and come into your dragon pose. So you're kind of leaning over the hands. Good. And then push up into kneeling warrior. Turning to the right, twisting warrior. Good. Come through kneeling warrior to the other side, twisting the other direction. Coming back to kneeling warrior. Now this time when we come back to child pose, knees wide. And feeling the hips. Now from here we're going to try frog position. We haven't done this for a long time. So there's a number of ways to do frog. There's going to be a little bit of intensity on the inner knee. So you start with that child position beginning with the knees open. But this can get a bit tough on the knees. So watch what I do. I roll up one end of the mat to make a nice padded surface for my knee. And then the other side, rolled up the same, another padded surface. So my knees are padded. And all we do from here is start to walk forwards, firstly coming to the elbows. Some people will walk further forward. The knees will want to go out further here, bringing the head to rest on stacked fists or hands or mat. Oh yeah, that's a big opening in the hips, so be very mindful here, very careful. And you can make micro movements here, slightly forward and backward, just to the extent the hips feel good, not overly stretched, not hurting. And the way we come out of frog is to walk on our elbows forward until you're on your belly. And then your legs can straighten out behind you. So you come into that prone position. Ah. And from here, bend the knees and simply sway the hips from side to side, the legs from side to side, windshield wipering on the belly. and then pause. And if you can, just lean a little bit to the right and lift up the left foot so the left knee comes off the ground. So you feel that back bend. And then lower and change sides. So one knee lifts off the ground and then the other. And you feel this in the low back. Activating the glutes to lift up and then lower down. And then straighten both legs. Feel that variation of crocodile pose. So the head can be resting on stacked fists or stacked hands. And you're going to do some alternate butt kicks. So kick the butt with the left foot, straighten, and then the right. Just getting some dynamic length into the quads here, the front of the skirt. Now the next time the left foot bends, come onto your elbows for a moment and reach around and grab that left foot with the left hand. Now if you can't reach the left foot with the left hand, just grab a strap and hold the strap. And then extend the right arm out in front of you, head to the mat for now, and just feel that quadricep stretch in that left quadricep. Release. Rest in crocodile for 2 or 3 breaths. And then try to come up and capture the other foot, the right foot, reaching the left arm out in front. Pulling the right foot back to get that quadricep stretch, whether you're holding it directly or with a strap. Release. Relax into crocodile, 2 or 3 breaths. Bend left, grab left, extend right arm. And now the left foot is going to push into the left hand to the point you feel the left knee lifting off the ground. And as you do that, lift the head, lift the right arm, and lift the right leg. So you're really feeling that back bend in this long bow position. Pushing the foot into the hand is going to help with the lift. For 3, 2, relax into crocodile. Ha. Other side, grab foot, extend left arm. Push the foot into the hand. Lift the head, lift the heart, lift the hand, lift the left foot. So you're flying in this bent-legged dancer pose for 3, 2, relaxing 2, crocodile. So we're really opening up the front of the hips here. Big time. Bend the left foot, grab the left foot, and then we're going to bend the right and grab the right. So we'll grab both feet. Push hands, feet into hands. Feel the chest naturally rise up, the head rise up. Squeeze the shoulder blades. So push the feet more. Engage. Feel the knees lift up. Feel the pelvis on the ground. Feel the heart lift more. Look up. Look in front of the mat. Squeeze the shoulder blades into full bow position for 3, 2, gently release into crocodile. Inhale, push up onto all fours. And in all fours, we're carefully going to tuck the tailbone and drop the head round the back. So you'll feel this in the low back, no doubt. Rounding into angry cat. Relax angry cat as you lift the head, look up into sacred cow. And then continue cat and cow carefully, feeling the low back out after that back bend. Good, 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 good. Keep working cat and cow till you're ready to come into child pose, which is a deeper flexion, and you'll feel that even more in the low back, maybe even the tailbone. Inhale, come up to tabletop and extend the left leg behind. Look over your left shoulder and bring the left knee as if you're trying to touch left knee to left shoulder. And then straighten it out behind you again. Look down at the mat. So we're moving from this variation of what we call this fire hydrant back into extended leg behind bird dog. If you want to add the right arm in bird dog, you can. If you want to bring the right hand out to the right, as you bring the left knee closer, you come into awkward fire hydrant. So it's a kind of funny combo. Requires a little more balance and core strength, but it's going to work the hip and the shoulder. Now remember, the variation is to keep the right hand down and just work the hip. So you got the variation there. Good. Now the next time you come into bird dog, drop the right hand, bring that right knee forward, and we're simply going to create circles with that left knee. Big circles, so the left hip is creating a circular orbit. You can orbit the opposite direction as well. And then come back to child pose, and in child pose, notice if anything is shifted in the left hip, the hip we've just worked. And then we'll come up to tabletop on the other side, cat and cow to begin with. Float the right leg back, look over the right shoulder and bring the knee forward and then back. Now, if you want to go to the next level, you extend the left arm out, bird dog to awkward fire hydrant. So lots of core work there. And from awkward fire hydrant, drop the left hand, come into fire hydrant, circling right knee, orbiting that right knee in a big circle, lubricating the right hip now. Other direction. Back to child, relax completely. Grab the heels of the feet. And we'll come into dynamic rabbit here, holding the heels, lift up and round into rabbit, and then down and relax, holding the feet into embryo. Lift, round, relax, embryo. One more. And then come up to all fours. Curl the toes. Lift the knees and push the hips back into bent knee downward dog. Now I always like to warm into downward dog rather than go straight into the full extent. So walk out your dog, one heel down, then the other. And keep doing that until you feel this natural inclination where both knees want to just straighten out into your downward dog. Now remember, it's not about straight knees, it's really about a long back. So if the knees are slightly bent, but the back is nice and long, then you found your dog. Lifting the right foot to the sky, reach up, Eiffel Tower here. Try to touch your toes on the ceiling. And then sweep the right foot forward to the right hand. Keep the hands on the mat. Drop the left knee into dragon. Point the toes of the left foot back. And just feel your dragon here, opening up the hips once again. Now push the hips back and forward a few times. Only back as far as that front foot stays grounded. But we are preparing to walk all the way back. And you can do that with blocks if you like. I like to use blocks on this one. It just gives me more control. I walk my hands all the way back. There comes a point where the front foot, the toes have to lift. And I carefully sink my weight back onto the back heel. So, if it's, the more I push down with the hands onto the blocks, the less intensity on the knee. I can sink into that back heel over time. And there comes a point where I can release the blocks and hinge forward towards that front foot, head towards knee. Big hamstring stretch here. And then carefully come up, grab your blocks if you're using blocks, or hands if you're not. And from here I'm going to continue using the blocks, curl the toes of the back foot and lift the back knee into that full runner's stretch. Push back through the heel. Take the weight into the right hand. So I'm bringing the right hand out further away from the foot, left hand on the left hip to open up, turning towards the ceiling here. So once again, coming into the hips. So that right hand, the further out, the more balance you get. The higher up on the block, the easier it is. You could even use a chair or a couch here. And if you can lift that left hand to the sky. So it's a big hip opening in a different way with a twist. Slowly come down. We'll step back into downward dog. If you'd like to come forward into high plank, low plank, and upward dog, you can. Or you can just stay in downward dog. Left foot high to the sky. Eiffel Tower, three-legged dog. Reach, reach, reach. Big step forward to the left hand. Hands stay on the mat. Drop the back knee. Point the toes of the back foot and feel your dragon. Start your hip swagger. Forward and backward. Keeping that front foot grounded the whole time. Starting to release in the back area here. And then at some point, using hands or blocks, walk your way back with control. Lowering carefully onto the back heel. Once again, using your arms to control the intensity factor. At any point you feel you can sink into that back foot, you can start to come forward into your head to knee. And slowly come up when you're ready, walking hands and or blocks forward. Blocks are a great prop for this. Back to dragon. Curl the toes, lift the knee, runner's stretch. Left hand, left block. Position out from the foot so you can lean into that left arm and right hand hip. Opening up the right side. And lift to heaven with that hand. Excellent. Come down, step back, downward dog. And from here you can come into your plank and upward dog option. We're going to end in child pose. And coming back to child, knees wide when you're ready. You should feel like you have new hips by now. Now bring the head to the ground or a cushion in that child pose and bring your hands into prayer position, resting the heel palms on the back of your skull. Interlace the fingers, grip the back of the skull, walk your elbows closer together and squeeze the skull and traction out the back of the neck in this childlike position. Gently release, walk your hands back into a wide-kneed Vajrasana. Whew. And from here we'll come onto all fours. Walk the right knee to the right wrist and swivel the right foot underneath the left hip so your shin is diagonally across the mat. And then walk your left knee back and back and back until you feel a nice, delicious pigeon-like stretch in that front hip. Point the toes of the back foot. I'll just move my block so you can see that. And walk your hands back and forward. Back and forward. So you're picking yourself up into somewhat of a variation of king pigeon, and then you're coming forward into an extended resting pigeon, but you're doing it dynamically. Just noticing if the range of motion starts to feel better. And the next time you come up, sit on the right hip so you lean onto the right side. Use your right hand for support. Left hand, left hip. So this takes a certain stress out of the hips as we transition to pigeon, to deer pose. Bend both knees 90 degrees. And we'll do some swivels first. Look over the right shoulder, then the left shoulder. Right, then left. Just swiveling the hips. So we haven't done a lot of twisting in the hips today, just a little bit. Now the next time you come swiveling to the right and slightly forward, come onto your right elbow and scoop the flesh of your belly away from your thigh, your right thigh, and then lay the belly down onto the right thigh, left elbow to the ground. If the left elbow doesn't reach the ground, put a block underneath it or a pillow. So feeling stage 1 of deer pose here. And we're going to do dynamic deer. So walk your hands out like you're stretching out overhead. Elbows lift off the ground. Head comes closer to the ground. And then walk back, drop the elbows and rest. Try that a few more times, reach out. Come back and rest. And hopefully each time you reach out, you might find a little more range of motion. The low back tractions out a little more. Head might come closer to the ground or the knee. And you might even find you extend the arms a little longer. And then walk the hands back. Come onto your buttocks and bring both feet onto the edges of the mat in front of you. And we're simply going to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. Carefully feeling what happened in the, particularly the right hip after all that work. I always like to add the arm swing to the knee windshield wipering. So as the knees come to the left, the right arm swings around behind you. And that should feel a nice neck to leg swivel. Now the next time you come to the left, come up onto all fours, unless you've got your back to me, and then just turn around. Curl the toes, downward dog. Come forward, high plank. Low plank, upward dog, and then onto the knees. Slide the left knee forward to the left wrist, left foot comes underneath the right hip. Walk your right knee back to get a delicious pigeon-like stretch. Point the toes of the back foot. And we're just going to do that dynamic pigeon. Proud, resting. Proud, resting. Just walking the hands to pick you up, going nice and slowly. Just feeling this hip out. And the next time you come back into your proud pigeon, Kapunk onto the left hip, right hand, right hip, bend both knees 90 degrees. Swivel, look over one shoulder, then the other. Just preparing ourselves for deer pose. Whew. And the next time you face forward, come onto one elbow, then the other. Dynamic deer. So walk out with the antlers, walk back to the elbows. So we're giving the left outer hip, left thigh, left glute, left low back time to acclimate. In and out. And at some point you might want to rest in full extended antlers. Or you might prefer to rest on the elbows. Or you might just continue with the dynamic movement. So just feel it out in your own hip. It should be a deliciousness to it. And the next time you come back, you come onto your buttocks, feet wide on the mat. Windshield wiper the knees. So we've had plenty of stretch in the hips, we've had plenty of dynamic movement in the hips. In all dimensions of the skirt. You can add that trailing arm, of course. And then pause and make your way down onto your back. Bring the hands out 90 degrees, palm down, lift up the knees, and using core strength, windshield wiper the shins, knees and thighs from side to side with control. So you're going down nice and slowly, putting on the brakes. When both legs come to the left next time, make sure the lower leg is grounded onto the floor. And if it's not, put a cushion underneath it. Keep the shoulders pinned. Use the left hand to pull down on that top knee. Getting that final lumbar twist, shooting through the outer right hip, the top hip, top low back, top glute. Slowly release, come backing onto the back. Palms out, controlled windshield wipering with leg suspension until you make your way to the other side. And if there's a space between the knees, that top hand can pull down on the top knee. Just give a little more leverage to the lumbar twist. Again, with control and care. sensitivity to your own body. And when you're ready, come onto your back with the hips abducted so you've got a nice wide stance with the legs and the arms are out 90 degrees from the shoulders, palm up. Five-pointed star. If this is uncomfortable, this is a variation of Shavasana. If it's uncomfortable, make any adjustments till you're comfortable. Bring your attention to the skirt from the knees, up through the thighs, through the hips, into the core. And then let yourself go. Let yourself relax. Let yourself go limp. Rest in Shavasana as long as you'd like. If you're ready to transition to a seat, take 5 to 10 breaths to do that. Come out very gradually. And if you're coming into a seated position, try the original seated position we started class with. Bound angles, Supta Baddha Konasana. Well, it's not Supta, Baddha Konasana. Just notice how the hips feel in relationship to how you started your practice. So thank you, hips. We appreciate all you do, and hope that was a little remedial for you. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.